Good evening, folks. This is Diamond from the Oppenheimer Ranch Project on Sunday, November 5th at 8:47 p.m. Mountain Time, 2017. Tonight we're going to be talking about the National Volcano Early Warning System and how you can monitor volcanoes around the globe as they change in alert. Now, the NVEWS, the National Volcano Early Warning System, is a proposed national scale plan to ensure that volcanoes are monitored at levels commensurate to their threats. The plan was developed by the USGS Volcano Hazards Program and its affiliated partners in state and academic institutions. And now roughly half of the nation's 169 young volcanoes are dangerous because of the manner in which they erupt and the communities within their reach. Currently, many of these volcanoes have insufficient monitoring systems, and others have obsolete equipment. And the goal of the NVEWS plan is to ensure that most hazardous volcanoes will be properly monitored well in advance of the onset of activity, making it possible for scientists to improve the timelines and accuracy of hazards forecasting for citizens to take proper and timely action to reduce risk. In addition, the NVEWS plan seeks to improve a number of capabilities of the U.S. volcanology community through the following elements. 1. Increase partnerships with local governments and emergency responders. 2. Grants to universities and other groups for cooperative research to advance volcano science, monitoring technologies, and mitigation strategies. 3. Added staffing and automation to improve 24/7 monitoring of volcanoes. And finally, 4. Computer systems to distribute the data to scientists, responding agencies, and the public, and to unify the systems currently used to monitor U.S. volcanoes. Now, this all came out in 2005. The idea, here's the open file report. I'll leave you links to this, an assessment of volcanic threat, and there has been activity in the last 10 or 12 years towards doing this. In fact, the reason I'm making the video is because the Hawaii Tribune published an article called Volcano Watch, Threat Rankings of Our Nation's Geologically Young Volcanoes, which is the exact thing that NVEWS was supposed to do. So they apparently have been doing their job. Now let's go through this because it's interesting, and it's going to give us a heads up on some North American volcanoes that I'm sure a lot of you are interested in learning about. Now, a little more than 10 years ago, the USGS undertook a systematic review of the nation's 169 geologically young, defined as less than 12,000 years since the last eruption, meaning all of the volcanoes that erupt during grand minimums, and potentially active volcanoes to determine which ones pose the greatest danger to people and infrastructure. Assignments were based on the specific type and frequency of known and expected eruptions, proximity to population centers or key industries, airports or other critical facilities, and other factors. And at the same time, existing monitoring networks for each volcano were evaluated for their adequacy with a careful inventory of instrumentation in place to help detect signs of unrest and eruption. The result was a publication that ranked all 169 volcanoes by their threat level from very high to very low. That's this publication, which I'll leave you a link to. The authors also listed the volcanoes that were ranked most threatening and needed to be prioritized for additional monitoring equipment. An outgrowth of this was the National Volcano Early Warning System, a proposed national plan to improve monitoring at U.S. volcanoes. Now, the U.S. warning system is here. And here you're looking at the Alaska volcano map. But the U.S. has a warning system for all North American volcanoes. But the reason I have it up here on the Alaska map is because we're going to be talking about one of the Alaskan volcanoes. In fact, right here, Redoubt. And the reason we're going to talk about Redoubt is because it's listed as green and normal. And today, there was a huge earthquake there. That's what this big round circle is. A 5.1 at Redoubt Volcano in Alaska, which means that this volcano is likely to erupt in the near future. I couldn't get any information on it, but if you come over to spaceweathernews.com, you'll see that for almost 18 hours today, we were at KP 0, which would suggest that there should be high volcanic activity on the globe. And in fact, not only was there a large quake at Redoubt, volcano. But Fuego Volcano and Sabancaya are currently erupting, as well as an ash advisory for Sabancaya, and Popocatépetl, Ducono, Reventador, Aoba, and Sinabung are all currently active today. That's a lot of volcanoes. And it probably is directly related to this 0, which also has something to do with this 5.1 underneath of that volcano. So guys, if you come over, I'll leave you links to this, to the USGS map. It's called Earthquake Hazards Program, and they have all the North American. I'll show you the North American map in a second here, if I can just get to it. So they have a legend system here, and they also in the interactive map. Oh, so we're at the Alaska volcano map. So in this map, you can turn on and off Alaska communities, webcams, seismic stations, photos of the volcanoes, and just look at the volcanoes. And you can see here a yellow one. That's interesting. That's Bogoslav, and it's a yellow advisory, which means it's intermediate. And you can see here down a red one here, Cleveland. We talked about that the other day, maybe a week ago. I did a video on Cleveland. But let's come up here to Redoubt. We just had a 5.1. It's a heavily ice-mantled redoubt volcano. Is located on the western side of Cook Inlet, 170 kilometers southwest of Anchorage. Now, this stratovolcano rises 10,197 feet above sea level. Recent eruptions in 1902, 1966 to 68, 1989 to 90, and 2009. The 89, 90, and 2009 eruptions produced mud flows, or lahars, that traveled down the Drift River and partially flooded the Drift River oil terminal facility. Ash plumes produced by the 89 and 2009 eruptions significantly disrupted air traffic and resulted in minor trace amounts of ash in the city of Anchorage and other communities. There's a heads up. I'll leave you links to the Alaska interactive map and the Volcano Hazards Program. So here are volcano updates. There's notification types and access, alert level system, alert level icons. There's volcano monitoring, volcano hazards. So there's a lot to look at here. Here's the volcano notification system. You can read about that. You can also learn about all different types of volcano updates, the types of monitoring, the seismic networks, deformation, hydrology, lava, different types of hazards, tephra, ash flows, lahars, we just talked about them, pyroclastic flows, I have a video on that, and volcanic landslides. So here's the hazards map for the U.S., and unfortunately, they only have the volcanoes in the U.S. that are monitored for North America. None of them are currently showing, so if we go over to tephra, you get some pictures of that. Let's go see what the monitoring, so interesting. They tell you how all the systems work, and they give you volcano updates. And there's a notification service here. So we were just talking about Bogoslav is elevated in Cleveland. That's what's on the map. And you can come look at current alerts here. Now, it's not that updated. One other thing I want to leave you with before we go here is some practical information for you. Perhaps you're now wondering which U.S. mainland volcanoes are considered high threat. According to the USGS, currently they're all listed as green. However, we've been monitoring seismic uptick under some of these volcanoes, especially Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, Long Valley Caldera, which is where these brand new earthquakes are happening right now. And we just had that Thermopolis quake yesterday. So there is a threat list here. The high threat volcanoes on the west coast are Lassen Peak, Long Valley Caldera, Mount Shasta in California, Crater Lake, Mount Hood, Newberry and South Sister in Oregon, Mount Baker, Glacier Peak, Rainier, and St. Helens in Washington. These will probably erupt as we a good number of them as we descend into the grand solar minimum. In the next 50 years, at least half of those on that list will be erupting. That's a heads up there. Alaska has 5 high threat volcanoes: Akutan, Augustine, Makushin, Redoubt, which just had a 5.1, and Mount Spur. So guys, I hope that gave you some insight on how you can use this information and this open source monitoring to help you move yourself around. There's Chevaluche. It's erupting today. And we got that information over here at Volcano Discovery. So you can do your own volcano watching. I've given you the lists. I'll leave you the links to the articles. I'll leave you the links to the U.S. volcano hazards and the map. And you got to familiarize yourself with how to use these. You can turn on and off the Russian volcanoes. You can turn on the communities. You can check out the webcams of the particular volcanoes in question. Just click on it, and it gives you the link to it. Right there. Here we have the link to Redoubt. So if we wanted to see if it is erupting, we can't because it's nighttime. But in the morning, I'll be able to check. Guys, I hope you got something out of the video. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments. I hope I give some insight on how to monitor the volcanoes in North America. If you have any questions, please leave it below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, do so now. Share this with like-minded people. Be safe.